Hello friends. Today I'm going to tell you about the movie Don't Worry, Darling. The action takes place on the territory of the United States of America in the 50s of the last century. Jack and Alice live in an ideal neighborhood, enjoying a special luxury. They always have a juicy steak on the dining table. They drive an expensive car and do not deny themselves anything. Of course, besides them, other married couples live in this area, with whom the main characters maintain friendly relations. Every day Jack and the rest of the men leave for the desert to work, while Alice and the other women stay at home on the farm. They look after the comfort, clean, cook delicious food, and wait for the spouses to return. Women know almost nothing about their husband's work. The only thing they know is about the existence of some secret project called Victory. Nevertheless, they do not know what exactly their loved ones are doing. However, this does not bother anyone, because there are only two rules here: do not ask unnecessary questions and do not enter the desert that surrounds this town. It is believed that leaving a safe place, they will put their lives in incredible danger. In their free time, friends Alice, Bonnie, and Peck go to a ballet club and shop in a chic store. They used to be friends with another housewife, but she had some mental abnormalities, so their communication was minimized. It turns out that she took her own son into the desert, thereby deliberately putting his life in danger. As a result, the boy died, but Margaret is sure that this is how she was punished for her curiosity. One day, all the residents of the neighborhood go to a party that Frank arranged with his wife Shelley. He is the most influential person here. It is for him that the rest of the men work. Everyone is having fun and enjoying the celebration, but after a few moments Margaret appears, who utters one unusual phrase: "We don't belong here." No one paid much attention to this, but Alice reacted excitedly to her words. Then she sees Margaret's husband taking her to a back room and trying to give her medicine. The heroine is confused and tries to tell Jack about everything, but he does not let her speak out. When the girl was cooking dinner, she noticed that the chicken eggs inside were empty. She does not believe her eyes and decides to calm down by going to the city. The heroine gets on the tram and makes a few laps. Soon Alice sees the crash of a plane that crashed high in the mountains. Knowing that it is strictly forbidden to go there, she still goes to the crash site because the pilot may need help. Once at the top of the mountain, she discovers a building in the form of a dome. Alice tries to call for help and, touching the window, she has hallucinations. She doesn't know what's going on, and after a moment her consciousness shuts down. Then she wakes up in her house and hears Jack doing something in the kitchen. She was surprised, because her husband had never come so early. Besides, she doesn't remember how she ended up here. After asking Jack what he saw when he came home, she did not get answers to her questions, because Jack said that she had already been here, and he did not believe her stories about the plane. Gradually, the heroine's life turns into a nightmare. Hallucinations and paranoid thoughts consume her without a trace. Soon, in ballet class, she sees something strange in a mirror image: the death of Margaret. Then she decides to talk to the girl and goes to her house. But Margaret, standing on the roof, cut her throat and jumped down. Suddenly, people in red appear and drag the heroine away from the corpse. After waiting for her husband from work, Alice decides to talk to him, expressing her assumptions and concerns, but he does not believe her words. The man convinces her that everything she talks about is the result of shock, but in fact Margaret was washing the windows and just stumbled. In addition, the Dr. Collins, who is Frank's partner, confirms Jack's version. He prescribes sedatives to Alice, and at this time she notices a document in his bag with the inscription "Security Threat." The heroine decides to steal it unnoticed in order to find out the truth, but she failed to read the notes and get closer to the solution. Alice is at a loss. Is she really going crazy? She doesn't have an exact answer, so she decides to find out the truth at all costs. The next day, all the residents of the town go to a party dedicated to victory. At some point, Alice realizes that she can no longer be in the company of these people and asks Jack to go home. However, he does not listen to her because Frank appoints him as a partner and this event is extremely important to him. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, the heroine goes to the ladies' room where her friend Bonnie comes. She's trying to find out from Alice what's going on with her. Then the girl tells her about all her assumptions and thoughts, but her friend does not believe her either. She suggests that she put all this nonsense out of her head and go to the hall with the rest of the guests to enjoy Jack's promotion with them. A few days later, Alice and her husband invite neighbors to visit, except for the bathhouse. They also invited Frank and his wife. While Jack was busy making small talk with friends, Frank came to Alice's kitchen. He knows about her conversation with Bonnie and transparently hints that she is right in her assumptions, but still will not be able to figure everything out. Shocked by the directness of the head of Victory, Alice decides to expose him right at the table. It turns out that most couples have the same dating history, they spent their honeymoons in the same places and were even born in the same cities. The heroine tries to open everyone's eyes to the truth, but no one believes her. Everyone thinks she's crazy, just like Margaret. When all the guests have gone home, Alice once again tries to talk to Jack. She asks him only one thing: to leave this place. To her surprise, her husband agreed, and she went to collect all the necessary things. However, once in the car, it became clear that he was not going to leave. Jack turned her in, allowing people in red suits to take his beloved away. Dr. Collins, along with close colleagues, subjects Alice to electroshock therapy, and in between the torments, the heroine sees her former life, which was her reality. It turns out that she is an experienced surgeon who worked all day to make ends meet because Jack was unemployed. After a while, Alice returns to Jack's house. She doesn't remember the latest events, but hallucinations still torment her. And so, when everyone decided that everything was fine with her, Alice remembers the truth. The fact is that Victory is a simulation world that Frank once created. Turns out Jack knew about everything. Moreover, it was he who forced her to become part of a fictional world against her will. When Jack realized that Alice knew everything, he decided to try to keep her. The guy swears that he did it for their own good, so that there was an opportunity to live a perfect life. The heroine is terrified and does not know what to do now. Jack talks about the conditions of such membership in this community. It turns out that husbands take responsibility for their wives, deliberately forcing them to enter the simulation. The people here are real, it's just that their real bodies are in a kind of coma under the influence of unusual lenses. Alice wants to return to normal life, but Jack does not let her go, squeezing her tightly in his arms. Then, to free herself, the heroine grabs a glass and hits her husband, after which Jack falls dead to the floor. Meanwhile, Frank is informed that Jack is dead and he sends his men after Alice. The girl has practically no time left because a sound alarm has already sounded on the streets. Bonnie runs into the house and asks the heroine to run. It turns out that a friend knows about the simulation. She consciously chose this life because here she has children whom she lost in reality. Bunny tries to explain that Jack died not only in this world, but also in the real one, so no one can disconnect her from the simulation. She needs to get out of this place urgently. When she went outside in a bloody dress, she noticed that the other husbands began to panic. Then other women began to guess everything. Meanwhile, while Frank was on the phone, Shelley decided to kill him. She wants to regain control of her mind, so she had no other choice. Alice guesses that in order to return to reality, she needs to get to the top of the mountain to that very building. She gets into Jack's car and tries to escape. A chase immediately begins for her because they do not want her to return to the real world, as they will lose her forever. The heroine managed to get to the top, but before she takes the last step, she sees Jack. He asks her to stay, but the girl no longer wants to live in a world of illusions. Alice touches the window, thereby exiting the simulation. That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos.